My name is Ashley Toon, and today we will be talking about the Amazon and Pampas, South America. Let's begin with the whereabouts. South America is broader in the north and tapers off into a point in the south, creating a triangular shape. The Amazon is broken into three different portions: the river, rainforest, and basin. The river flows through Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia, and Brazil, and is located in the northern portion of South America. The rainforest is in Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. The basin is in Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Venezuela. Next is the Pampas. It is primarily in Argentina, which is in southeastern South America. Next, I'll be talking about the capitals. Venezuela's capital is Caracas. Guyana's capital is Georgetown. French Guyana's capital is Cayenne. Suriname's capital is Paramaribo. Brazil's capital is Brasilia. Asunción is Paraguay's capital. Uruguay's capital is Montevideo. Lastly, Argentina's is Buenos Aires. Next is land. Venezuela's climate is considered hot year-round. They have the Andes Mountains, the Maracaibo Lowlands, Central Plains, and Guiana Highlands. They have two lakes that are more famous called Lago Maracaibo and Lago Valencia. Guyana's climate is warm and tropical year-round, and rainfall and humidity is high throughout the year. They have the mountain ranges called Pacarame, Canuco, and Acaray. They have a famous waterfall called Cayuter Falls, some rivers, and three lakes that are more famous: Lago de Forno, Lake Amucu, and La Parina Lake. In French Guiana, the climate is tropical and hot, humid year-round. The Atlantic Ocean is the coastline. They have the Amazon rainforest and offshore islands. The Tumac-Humac Mountains are on the Brazil border. They have many rivers. They have a hydroelectric dam to the north and Grand Lac and Lake Eloge. Suriname's climate is tropical. They have coastal lowlands, tropical rainforests and savannas, and two mountain ranges called De Haan and Van Osch Van Wyck. They have a lake, W.J. van Bloemstein Lake, and many rivers. Brazil's climate varies from hot and dry to arid and sticky. Mountain ranges include Fortaleza and the highest Pico de Neblina, which is the highest, Pedra de Mina, Guiana Highlands, the flat-topped mountains, and Amazon rainforest. They have Pantanal freshwater wetlands, the Amazon River, São Francisco River, Agua Vermelha Lake, and Araros Lake. Paraguay's climate is considered subtropical. Landforms are cultivated landscape, rolling hills, Cordillera del Amambe, Paraná Plateau, and northern upland. The largest lake is Lake Yapo, Jiji River, Manduvir River, and Tipukiri River. Uruguay's climate is temperate. They have rolling hills, plains, coastal lines, plains, and sandy beaches. They have the Uruguay River, Rio de Plata, Rio Negro, Rio Y, Lago de Rincón del Boneta, and Laguna Garzón. Argentina's climate varies. They have the rainforest. They have a swampy, flat Chaco plain. They have grasslands, the Patagonia Plateau, the Tierra del Fuego, the Andes Mountains, which has a glacier called Perito Moreno, and they have Iguazu Falls and many rivers. Next up is resources. Venezuela has many resources, some including gold, nickel, iron, steel, aluminum, bauxite, natural gases. Guyana has sugarcane, rice, bauxite, and gold. French Guiana has many as well: bauxite, timber, gold, kaolin, rice, and bananas. Suriname has gold, iron, copper, nickel, and many others. Brazil has many, to name a few: platinum, tin, clay, petroleum, and hydropowder. Paraguay also has many: peat, salt, marble, limestone, and gypsum. Uruguay has many of the same, but one new one is precious gemstones. Lastly, Argentina has lead, zinc, tin, copper, iron, manganese, petroleum, uranium, and lithium.
Population. Approximate population size of each region. Pampas has about 50 million citizens. Amazonian has about 490 million citizens. Most populated nations and cities. Brazil, major city Brasilia, population of 209.5 million. Argentina, major city Buenos Aires, population of 44.5 million. Venezuela, major city Caracas, population of 28.9 million. Paraguay, major city Asuncion, major population of 6.9 million. Uruguay, major city is Montevideo with a population of 3.4 million. Guayma, Georgetown is the major city and its population is 800K. Suriname, major city Paramaribo with a population of 576K. French Guiana, major city Cayenne with a population of 291K. Major cities and major languages and major religions. Amazonian, main language is Portuguese and its people follow three forms of Christianity, which are Evangelical, Sabbatarian, and Roman Catholic. Pampas, main language is Spanish and its people follow a number of religions, of which are Roman Catholic and Protestants, and they also have minority groups in Pampas, which are Muslims and Jews. So major history in Pampas was the Spanish invasion, where the Spanish basically invaded some permanently settled Indian territories, and they actually practiced irrigation and tourist farming in the valleys. And they made their very first permanent settlement in 1553 at Santiago del Estero. For the Amazonian, they had discovery of the cinchona plant, which is a derivative of the malaria treatment. They also discovered rubber, which caused fluctuation in prices for rubber around the world. Also, Francesco del Orellana set foot on the Amazonian in 1541 just to look for the El Dorado. Okay, major civilizations. For the Pampas, there was Guachos, and they were European and Native American mixed. And there's also Patagonian and Pampean groups. For the Amazonian, there's not much civilizations left after the Spanish conquered and took over and had the whole colonization happen. But there are word of uncontacted tribes deep in the forest.
Daily lives. Hello, my name is Brian, and out of all the countries in South America, we will be focusing on Brazil and how they're structured, how their people act, and how they live their daily lives. In terms of their culture, it is a culture that embraces other cultures. They love sports, they love dances, and they just love just to be out and party. They love movies from Hollywood. They love TV from Mexico, telenovelas, and their favorite sport is soccer. They even take place in the World Cup. Now, in social customs, much like Europe, they have kissing and hugging when greeting friends. And much like Italy, they focus highly on religion and church with the whole Vatican, Rome. And they also have their own major holidays like Carnival, which is sort of like Mardi Gras, a huge parade where everybody takes place in walking down the street and just dancing and presenting yourself and just having a great time. There's also Easter, Christmas, and New Year similar to us, and they also have their Independence Day on September 7th. Now, they love stories, and folklore is just usually passed down from generation to generation. As usual, focused on the good versus bad, how the good is outmatched and yet has to challenge the big bad. Now, their stories do change with events to their country. In terms of their past history, they had African slaves. There was Portuguese settlers who took over the country for a while until they gained their own independence, and some of their influences kind of made their way into the stories. They also have a lot of European tales that are very similar to the way they tell their stories. But in terms of some figures, we have Ali Moa, who is a ghost who seduces men and basically carries them to their death out at sea. Sort of like the sirens. We also have Bestafera, or in other words, as we know him, Satan, who is meant to scare the hell out of everyone. And he is meant to keep you in check. You don't want to act out, or this guy on the right is going to face you off. Now, in terms of music and dance, Brazilians love to party, and their main dance is samba. It has become their national dance, and as you can see on the right here, they dress with a lot of feathers, sometimes mask, and this is sort of the African influences that they've had embraced. They love showing off their bodies. They love moving. They just love basically to party. And there are some changes in terms of when you split it between rural and urban areas and Hispanic versus African influences, which could kind of change outfits, their dances, and basically how they move. But they all like to take place in Carnival, and they love just to let loose. In terms of music, we do have Foro, Repente, Coco de Roda, Axe, Sarentejo, Brega, Frevo, and much more. These are sort of like our genres of pop, country, and but their own originals of Brazil. And they have come up with it themselves, and they're actually quite good. Now, Brazil is all about party, but we do have the federal government, and not much interesting, but they are the Federative Republic of Brazil, and it does include 26 states, each with their local government, and it's sort of like the United States, sort of much like that influence part I've said before. They have a huge influence from the United States and the way they just chose to have their government. They also have three branches of government: the legislative, executive, and judicial. And much like our executive, they also have their own president and vice president. And currently their president is Jair Bolsonaro, but there are some issues with him that we'll get to later. In terms of how the government runs, it's very similar to ours. The president has his own cabinet of ministries. We also have their own national congress, which is also broken into two chambers, much like our Congress. They have the federal Senate and the Chamber of Deputies. And one is based off population and the other is based off equal representation. They also have their Supreme Federal Court, much like our Supreme Court, which is sort of backed up at the moment because the president has been accused of a lot of corruption charges against money laundering, which is sort of not claiming all the money that's you have personally in your bank account. And that sort of stalled every other case within the nation. Now, in terms of issues, like I've stated before, there is a lot of corruption. A lot of people are trying to get their hands on money because the government simply cannot provide. They recently had they had a recession that lasted from 2014 to 2017 that sort of just raised every number. Unemployment was high, poverty was high, there was a lot of crime, and the government wasn't much doing anything about it. There was even party leaders using public money for candidates that don't exist on the ballot themselves. Now, in terms of the economy, they are a free market, but they do rank 144 in the world. They have a 3.4 trillion GDP, which makes them the 8th largest economy in the world and the largest in Latin America. However, their unemployment is high at 12.5%. Now, the president has tried to push laws to change that, and they sort of work. The poverty rate is going down, unemployment rate is going down, and there's changes going on. In terms of social issues, there is a lot of crime. There's a lot of police brutality and corruption. There's school system is broken. There's malnutrition because people can't afford the food, or the food has gone bad due to environmental issues because there's a lot of dry spots and much of their forest is drying up. There's also high infant mortality and a housing deficit, which sort of play on the whole economy dropping because money is just not moving. It's not flowing, much like America.